Guess who? It's me, Derek Snow with No Dog Left Behind. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever this catches you. Today I'm going to speak about a medical condition called bloat. I'm not a veterinarian, I am just mentioning some prevention, some causes, and some symptoms of this condition because it's a big deal. It's the second leading killer of large and giant breed dogs after cancer. So it's a big deal. And if you catch it in time, you have a much higher rate of helping the dog and not dying. In any event, what is bloat to start with? Basically, it's a rapid buildup of air in the stomach, okay, which often then makes the stomach twist and contort within inside the dog, cutting off each end at the esophagus, so it's twisted there, and then it twists right at the other end of the small intestine. And there's a lot of air buildup within there, so it causes a lot of discomfort and so forth. Anyways, causes are, age is actually a factor in it. The older the dog gets, and this is really more based on large and giant breed dogs are more predisposed to get bloat than like small breed dogs. Any dog can, but it's much more common in large and giant breeds. So as the dog gets older in age, there's an increased risk factor. Another thing is genetic. If the dog has a relative that has had bloat, they have a much higher likelihood of developing it themselves. And if the dog eats really fast. So if your dog is the type of dog that just inhales its food, and it's a large breed dog, and it's has a relative that had bloat, I mean, there's a lot of things adding up that you can be aware of. Look, I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see myself in my glasses reflecting off the screen. Here we go. Risks. Okay, risks associated with bloat. Raised food dishes actually is associated, or is a risk factor. There was some information a while ago that encouraged people to raise their food dishes, as it was beneficial that the dog would not swallow as much air, but that has been disproven. So it's actually, they now say that it's better if the food dish is on the ground and low, not raised up, because when the dog puts its head down to eat like this, there's a less ability to ingest as much air while they're eating. Whereas if the esophagus and throat is really opened up when they're just eating like this, when it's raised, right, compared to down, it's really restricted. So they say to put the food on the ground and not to raise it up. Some other risks are leaner dogs are a bit more likely. It doesn't mean that you need to fatten your dog up. It just means to be aware that if your dog is really lean and a large breed, then it's got a bit of a heightened risk factor. The emotional state also has an effect. So if a dog is just fundamentally stressed or anxious, or threatening for that matter, there's an increased risk. So some things it can just be situationally, like where the dog is fine, but let's say you add another dog into the home and your dog is really stressed now, and now it's eating really faster, and I mean all these small little things add up to possibly a quite a high risk. Some of the symptoms are, and I'll just refer to this my information because there's a handful of them. And you can write some of this stuff down if you want to really memorize it, but frequent attempts to vomit, usually unsuccessfully, like nothing comes out right. That would make sense because it's twisted, so things can't get out. It could happen every 5 to 35 minutes where the dog tries to vomit and dry heave and nothing happens. Restlessness and anxiety. So your dog's just uncharacteristically acting like unnatural. Pacing, unproductive gagging, heavy salivation and drooling, abdominal swelling, hunched up appearance, and persistent coughing. So if you see one of those or all of those, it's a big deal, and call your vet immediately and try to get them in. You don't have a lot of time with bloat. I haven't experienced it directly myself, but I know a few dogs that are. I know definitely one dog that has passed from it, and it was quite sad. Anyways, prevention. Okay, so you can have a likelihood to prevent. And as I had mentioned, and I'll just kind of sidetrack for a second, dogs with really deep chests are more likely to suffer from bloat, along with larger giant breeds, age, if they're related, all those kind of factors. And a deep chest really just looks more like, I'll see if I can give you guys a shot here. Just lay down there, mister. Come on, lay down, it's okay. I don't know if you can really see. Oh, it's kind of not really helpful at all. But anyways, this old guy, Ozzy, right here, he's got a really deep chest. And he's like about 95 pounds. So he's a larger guy. Anyways, who's never had bloat or anything like that. But just the deeper chest where it's really deep but shallow right at the base. The part that's closest to the floor, it gets really shallow. So then air can get trapped in there a bit easier. Anyhow, so prevention, smaller meals. So if you feed one big meal to your giant large breed dog a day, that's an additional unnecessary risk. So make it 2 or 3 meals. Avoid strenuous exercise an hour before feeding and 2 hours after. Avoid allowing the dog to drink excessive water after it's eaten as well, because then it's just going through the same pattern of trying to consume, so it's going to gulp in more air while it's doing that. So yes, water is fine after eating, but not to excess. You might have to just take it away for half an hour or an hour. High quality food makes a difference too. The lower quality food have ingredients that, such as, I can give you guys some examples actually, that produce more gas in the dog. So things you want to avoid are brewer's yeast in your dog food, alfalfa, soybean products, peas, and beet pulp. Beet pulp's pretty common in a lot of dog foods as a source of fiber. There's lots out there that have it. So if your dog is larger, and Great Danes suffer with this the most, actually. So if you have a Great Dane, you'll really want to be conscious about a lot of these and watch this video a few times or research bloat on the internet yourself, because they're unfortunately just one of the dogs that have the highest likelihood risk of it. Doesn't mean your dog's gonna have bloat, but if you have a Great Dane, it's more of a possibility than any other breed. Okay, and then another preventative thing is do not raise the food dish. Okay. If you're going to change the dog's food to a higher, different food for that matter, make sure you do it gradually, so it's not over a day or two. Like you would transition the food in increments over, 5 to 7 days. So then there's not any stomach upset associated with an additional gas being produced. So if you recognize any of the symptoms, call your vet immediately, tell them what you're seeing, what your concerns are, and they'll guide you through that step. Okay, like I said, I'm not a vet, but bloat is really something that everyone should be aware of, because when your dog starts acting different and you're like, what's going on, you have no time to waste. You can't wait till see how it goes next day. If I mentioned any of the things I mentioned of the symptoms, immediately just make a phone call, and then the vets can tell you where to go after that. So once again, if you found any value, or if you found this of interest, comment on this, like it or share it or do something. That would be great. Thank you.